Hi, everyone. Welcome back to season 6 of Sista Brunch, the only podcast sharing the stories of Black women and gender expansive people thriving in film, TV, and media. I'm your co host for season 6, Sean Pipkin West.
Ooh, we're so glad to have Sean on this season. And I am the co creator, producer, and host, Fanchon Cox. Forgive my voice on this episode, but y'all get tired of hearing me, I'm sure. So Sean will be doing most of this along with our amazing guests. Today's guest is a senior physical production executive on the original series team at the streamer that basically the entire industry is constantly chasing after, Netflix.
This executive leads the way with the industry being more inclusive. She helped create the Netflix Shondaland Producers Inclusion Initiative, which has been running for over 3 years and has had 30 graduates. We can't wait to learn more about this program and how you can apply if you're interested. I'd like to welcome Ms. Noelle Green from Netflix.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here today. It's an honor to have this conversation with both of you.
Oh, we are so glad you're here.
You're a superstar. We are the ones that are lucky and grateful.
It's true. I will be honest. I was like, we can't get no Noelle Green. And then Sean, I asked Sean, I was like, Sean, who would you like on? And you were on that top of the list. And I was like, but how? We gonna get her? And she was like, I got you. So we got you. So we're thrilled.
I am
Truly
thrilled too. I've been following you and watching your episodes and really enjoying what you're doing for us as people in our community.
Oh,
Very
thank you.
uplifting.
So we planted just a couple of seeds about your kind of what you're doing now, but we would love to hear your journey. And you can go back to your birth, your parents' birth, your grandparents' birth. You can talk about where you grew up, personal and career wise. We would love to hear what are all the things that happened that you got you here sitting with us on Sister Brunch.
All right, we're going to go back to Reston, Virginia. That's where I grew up. I was born in San Diego, but moved out to Reston, Virginia when I was 7 and grew up there in the South and went to high school there and ran track. And I will say I was good enough that I used my track wings to bring me out to the West Coast, knowing I
Nice.
wanted to study communication and get into film and entertainment once I graduated. So I did that. I came out to USC. I ran track at USC and majored in communications and graduated and got right into the industry. And when I got right into the industry, there's so many different arenas. I didn't know which one I wanted to be in. So I worked at an agency, just a boutique agency for a beat, and that wasn't the right fit for my passion and my juices. And so I went and worked in development and read a lot of scripts on a lot of weekends and still wasn't feeling passionate but loving the industry. And we ended up having a movie greenlit at the company I was working at called Heart and Souls back in the early 90s with Alfred Woodard and Robert
Yes.
Downey Jr. And
Yes.
got to go work on the set, and that's when I fell in love. And that's when I knew that's what I wanted to do. When the movie ended, when you do your first show and it's over, you're like, wait, where's everybody going? I remember
Yes.
feeling that, and
Yes.
I couldn't wait for the next one. So from that point on, I've been working in production and feeling very, very passionate about it. I worked in freelance for about 20 years, and some of my best memories were honestly working with John Singleton. Believe it or not, I went to USC with him, and we didn't know each other well then, but we remembered seeing each other. And when I graduated, I got to work on Higher Learning and Rosewood, and it's like he set
goodness.
such a high bar for how he
Yes.
ran his sets and how he treated
Yes.
his crew. And I worked on a Cameron Crowe film called Almost Famous that
Yes.
was really, really challenging and really eye-opening. And I would say probably my favorite show was 42 with Chad Boseman. And it was just magic and a difficult shoot and came out just beautifully. And right around that time, I'm a single mom, and my daughter was like, Mom, are you really going to keep working on the road? And I knew I couldn't leave the industry. I knew I couldn't leave production. And I got a magic email from a man named Ty Warren at Legendary Pictures asking me if I would ever go in house. And that was my ticket in, and I was just thrilled. And I went in house and worked for him 2 years on international productions. I did King Kong, it's called Skull Island, and several other shows that shot outside of the country. And then he headed to Netflix, and we luckily got to follow his footsteps. So I've been there now for 8 years and started out on the film side as a production exec.
Wait. I want to take you back because I want to ask a couple questions about those because you do physical production, and we haven't even on this podcast that we've talked a lot about development. We've talked about producers, but physical production itself is different, right? And I mean, it's one of the important things that happen in the process of getting things made. So I want to talk about the differences, what it means when we say it. And also back when you were in Reston, you said you knew you came out here for track, but you knew you wanted to be in film and TV. Was there anything early on that made you feel like, oh, that's the thing that I want to do? How did you even know what that meant? And then why physical production versus the other options?
Two things really affected me when I was growing up. I used to love to go to the theater. I had a dad that took us to the theater every week, and I just fell in love with cinema. And in high school, when I saw The Color Purple, that had such a huge impact on me. And Danny Glover and Oprah Winfrey and Whoopi Goldberg's performance was so magical. I just knew that I wanted to be in film versus all other forms of entertainment. That movie, I would say, inspired me the most, but entertainment too, Michael Jackson and Prince, and watching them grow up, I just knew I wanted to get into entertainment. Michael Jackson's Thriller video for me just put me over the edge on production value and
Wait,
videos.
were you one of the ones that learned all the steps? I feel like, or
Don't get me started.
I love it, right? But I love that also you said that you production values. Like I think, I know for me, I loved that video, but it wasn't until you said that just now, because again, I was thinking the dance, but I was like, now I realized, right, you were looking at that piece of it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Long form
So Noelle,
story.
you stayed up late to watch Friday Night videos, right, for Thriller? Is that where you saw it?
Remember, MTV would drop the times and you would rush home with your friends and watch the video, and just
Awesome.
really honestly, the production value and the way they opened up that long form video just changed things for me. And I knew then I really wanted to be in production. And I chose production because I'm a planner and I'm a logistical mind and I'm a business mind. I'm not the creative mind. I love stories, but I don't know how to come up with concept and script. But if you hand me a script and ask me how we're going to make it, then that's where I get involved. Once the creative execs have figured out the script and the director, they come to me to figure out the budgeting and the shooting plan. And that's physical production.
So Noelle, I have a question. Just going back to when you were talking about your journey with John Singleton, Rosewood, Higher Learning. What were your positions? Were you production coordinator? Were you on set? Were you in the office? Can you tell us what your titles were on those projects?
On Higher Learning, I was the line producer's assistant. I worked for a producer named Paul Hall, and was on set with him all the time. I did prep with him, and then I was on set with him, and the cast on that show was magic. And we shot at UCLA, and we were there for a long time, so we kind of like hunkered down there and shot all over the campus for weeks and weeks, and got to really learn about the ins and out of production and how you get approved for shooting, how to schedule a show.
Did you film during the school year or in the summer? Do you remember?
I have to go back in my memory bank. I think we were there in the summertime.
Okay. I just because you were talking about you're into logistics, filming on a campus as big as UCLA during shooting. I was like going to ask, how did you all do that?
That would be tough.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead and continue on your journey.
I think I reached the end of my journey. I was talking about, I specifically chose production because when I worked at that production company in development, every time I was reading scripts, I was envisioning how to make it, not so much the flip side, which is how to cast it and who's going to direct it. I wanted to just produce it.
I love it. Hi, it's Fanchon, and you are listening to the Sista Brunch podcast. You can support Sista Brunch. We would appreciate it so much. And it's really, really easy. All you have to do is go and follow and interact with us on Instagram at Sista Brunch Podcast. We also love it when you leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. We've got some great ones there. Add your flair to a review on Apple or Spotify. You can watch the full video episodes because our guests are gorgeous. I mean, I must say, I think we have the best looking guests of any podcast. So you can watch at youtube.com/Trujulo Media. That's TRUJULO Media. YouTube.com/Trujulo Media. Subscribe, like, share, all of that. You can also watch highlights on TikTok if you're on TikTok at Trujulo Media. What about the difference between, we talk physical production, so that's once that development's done and the script is done and it's paid for, our favorite part, right? You got the money and you're about to start, or obviously you're involved before that because you're thinking, okay, where are we going to film it? Are we going to have kids and therefore we need to teach all of those logistics, right? But also your role now is as an executive, like a physical production executive versus doing physical production on an indie film, as an example. So what does your day-to-day look like that would be different from somebody who's not a physical production executive?
I call the production office and the production coordinator Grand Central Station because the show starts with them opening the office and the producer coming in the office, and the producer hires myself as the production coordinator, and we support 20 to 30 departments that come on to the show. We have a grip department, we have a set lighting department, we have all these departments, and so the production coordinator supports each of them in a different way. The grip department, we order equipment for the set. The camera department, we're ordering the camera bodies for the set. We're tracking costs for the finance department. We are booking travel and accommodations if the show goes on the road. We do a lot of distribution. We make sure all the documentation, the call sheet, the production report goes out every night to all the proper people. It's a lot of communication and organization to support the day in and day out logistics of the show.
Like cast SAG contracts, right? That's a big part of what the office does as well, correct?
Yeah. We do all the contracts that go out to the cast every day on set. So for your lead actor, we get these big contracts that come in from legal, but then your stunt players that come in day out, or your actors that just have a week or day of acting, we are doing their paperwork and getting that to and from set as well.
Got it. And Noelle, it seems to me that the office is a great way to start if you want to learn about this industry. Do you believe the office is the best way to start, or on set as a set PA, as like your entry level? What in your opinion, what do you think?
I think it could be either or, because when you're on set in the AD department, you're also from the set managing 30 different departments. So whether you're on set or in the office, you're getting the visibility of what every department does on the show. And I always tell people that's the best way to learn, to either be a set PA or an office PA, and you'll see how we interact with the departments, how they interact with the director, how they interact with the producer, what they need to do during prep to get ready for the shoot, and what they need to do to execute and support each shoot day during production.
Okay. And before you became a production executive, was production supervisor was your freelance role? Do you want to tell us? I know it varies on different shows, but you want to tell us some of the duties you had as a production supervisor?
Yes. The production supervisor is one step above the production coordinator, and it's a huge jump because now you're involved in the budget, you're involved in the schedule, You're in charge of staying on budget. You're in touch with the studio. You're working very closely with the line producer to let them know how the budgeting is going, the scheduling, the tracking of costs. You're working closely with the finance department to make sure all the departments are tracking their costs and turning them in and getting them approved properly. You're making crew deals. You're now starting to have to tell people no. So when you're the production coordinator, it's yes, 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 bring whatever you need to me. I'm going to support you. Once you're the supervisor, it's like, no, we can't afford 5 people in your department every day. We can afford 3. We can't afford $50,000 for this purchase. So it's a lot more negotiating and managing of the budget versus supporting the crew and making things happen.
And it sounds like the production supervisor really helps and supports the unit production manager.
Yeah, and not every show has a unit production manager. The big shows that need the extra support too, but the smaller shows sometimes just have one of those position, and you're running point on overseeing all the spend and scheduling for the line producer. And the accounting department relies on you heavily too, to really be talking to departments and making sure they're tracking their costs and staying on budget and behaving.
And we should mention that in all of these cases, we're talking about studio productions or streamer productions where there's funding, right? There are some cases on an indie project where you are all of those things. So you definitely don't have a UPM, and you might be the line producer and the producer and the the writer and director and all of those things. I just want to say, as I'm listening, this is exactly why we do this podcast, because I think so few people know that there are Black women behind some of our favorite film and TV that are in charge in all of these ways and are making these things run smoothly. Yes. I'm also glad that you're at Netflix, because I feel like not enough of us also are in that kind of position, getting what I hope is a fair salary. And if it's not, we gonna do something about it. At least be loud,
Very
right?
fair.
Like being good, right? Being appreciated and respected at work. Yeah. And it's just lovely. So I just wanted to cut it and say that that I love it.
We are breaking in.
Yes. And Fanchon, I told you, like Noelle, she can be humble if she wants. She is a superstar. Okay.
No,
the work she has done, when all the work. Okay, we're gonna pivot a little bit. Here we go.
Okay.
When all the when all the actions taking down DEI work, affirmative action went away. Departments went away in so many institutions. People like Noelle in her position were like, well, I'm gonna take that up. It's up to me. It became it's one of those things where the individuals started saying, okay, if we don't have a department that's going to do this, then individually I'm going to take that on. And that is just so huge. I mean, that you have someone that is fighting, because Noelle, you have a lot of your own battles. I know, working in production. And it's just, and I've told you how much it means to me and so many other sisters in this industry that there is someone like you fighting for inclusion for everyone, inclusion. And I now I'm going to segue into, so you are physical production executive. Okay, now you're more big picture. You're not like so minute on one project. So when you were in charge of film production, in that department, can you give us the range of budget of some of the films that you were in charge of, and also a series now, how much the budgets are for that? You don't have to mention names.
Yeah.
I'm just going so people can talk about segue into our financials. Segment.
Indeed.
So go ahead.
We do a huge range. When I was on the film team, a huge range of budgets, and so I did a couple shows for $20 million, but I think my biggest show was around $200 million.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nice.
big
what we
range.
could do with
Feature. I
200.
know.
What
I
if like
know.
Sister Brunch got
I
200 right and
know.
makes
That's right. Make some
I
big
mean,
changes.
masterpieces.
Hmm.
Okay, so now about series. Series now.
Series, the shows that we're making or that I have exposure to, I think the 5 million, and really not many around 5 million, up to 19 million per episode.
yes,
And
per episode.
per episode, and you may have 6 episodes up to 10 episodes on the shows that I do. So there's a big range there as well.
Is
And
there
that
a
is what you.
correlation,
Mhm.
like with the kind of the higher the budget? It's so right. Is there a correlation? Is it the higher the budget, the more challenging it is, or since they got all that money, you would think like maybe things are a little easier with all that money?
It's all about the filmmakers. It's all about their vision and their scope and trying to help them do that scope for a number. Some have a very hard time fitting in the box, and some really, I'm going to say a name of someone who's really adamant about staying in the box, who is Spike Lee. I was blown away when I worked with him. He wanted to know the number, he cared about the number, he made sure we locked at the number and that we wrapped at the number.
Wow.
And it's like, not everyone is that intentional, but it is all about your filmmakers.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow. I like that. So now we've talked about budgets, projects, features, episodic shows. So now you're a big time executive now. Now we don't need to know this about you in particular.
Yes,
So
we
just
do.
people
No, we
who
don't.
are aspiring, they're aspiring to become an executive, right? To work behind the scenes, be maybe a little puppet master. So, so like for a major streamer, like an Amazon, a Netflix, Max, Peacock, how much in range does an executive that has been in the business, let's say 20 years, what do you think that salary possibly, if you want to say?
Yeah, absolutely. For physical production folks, for the experienced upper tier, I would say it's mid-level to upper tier is probably 400 to 800,000, and that's like a mid-level exec to a senior level exec. If you're running the department, you're probably making $1 million or more, depending on where you work, of course.
So now what about the legacy studios, like a Paramount, like for features, for Paramount, Disney, things like that? Is it the same or is it more?
They're around the same range. Netflix is absolutely and publicly known for paying employees more, so we sit at a higher echelon, and we're very, very, very lucky. But the range for studio execs is probably 800,000, and 7 to 800,000 is really on the high end for senior level execs.
Okay,
May
nice.
you be
Six
getting that million
figures.
plus. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit, and then we'll decide how we edit this in, because I want to make sure we talk about Shondaland, the Shondaland that you co-created, the Shondaland Producers Inclusion Initiative. Back to here, you are juggling already everything that you've expressed, what you do in your day to day. But no, Ms. Green doesn't just stop there, right? You also have created an incredibly important program that so we tell us about it.
I want to say first that I freelanced for 20 years, and I was lucky enough that during those 20 years I was mostly on studio shows. And I would be on shows that, employed 400 to 1,000 people, depending on the show. And there was probably 2% people of color on most of those shows. And it was shocking. I mean, for my age, it was kind of what I was used to. But when this opportunity for change came, I was like, open the gates and flood them now.
Yes.
I literally said that for weeks on end. Flood them now, flood them now, flood them so they can never close the gates again. And this program came out of that, and just knowing it just seems like there's more people open to giving more opportunity. So let's find as many people as we can that need and want training and just need that next level up and help them get through the door. And our real focus right now and with this program has been people that are already in the business that have felt like they've been hiding under a rock or been left in some corner and have been killing it for 20 years but can't seem to get into that mainstream network. Yes. So we're all about training and expediting the process and building out their network.
How can our listeners...
I know. Oh, go ahead,
Go ahead. Go. I was going to say, how can our listeners apply, find out how to apply? What do they need to do to show you that they, kind of deserve to be in the program? And then maybe also, what's a little bit of the, is it how many weeks is it, or how does that piece work also?
The application comes around every year in the fall, and we don't have the link to it yet. So maybe we need to edit this piece and I can come back with that information. Sure. Yeah. But it's a 9-week program. We work on Mondays. The call is on the West Coast from 6 to 9 p.m. Yes, we get East Coasters that dial in from 9 to midnight for 9 weeks. Yes. We have different Netflix execs come and talk about their divisions and their departments, what they do and how they partner with line producers and what they expect out of the partnership so they understand the studio relationship. We also do budgeting classes, a little bit of scheduling. We have line producers come in. Preston Holmes has been an avid supporter all 3 years. He'll come in and talk, for an hour about how he got into the business, how he line produces. He'll drop gems and tips, and then we'll do a Q&A. We do a more intense budgeting session. One of the weeks is devoted just to budgeting, and we have accountants come in and work. We try to hit all different aspects of the path of a line producer.
Amazing. I love this because it's so important. When people think of our industry, they're just thinking like actors, writers, directors, creative, and it's like we need more of us need to be behind the scenes. And it's not just about what's in front of the camera or the creative part. You need the management side, right? You need the people that get down to it in the trenches and make it happen, because let's be real, right, Noelle? If the people like the writers, directors, and actors, they couldn't do what they do if we weren't there.
That's right.
Because we make it happen, right?
That's right.
Absolutely. And we have ample evidence that when it is one of us that's in that role, the rest of the production magically actually is inclusive, right? So it's just another reason. I was thinking about that recently, that kind of looking at all of the training programs and all the labs we have, so few of them are focused on producers. So a lot of them for directors, a lot of them for writers, but for producers specifically, learning that budgeting and the scheduling, all those things that are so important.
Hi, sisters and siblings. We hope you're loving our guests this season as much as we do. And if you do, we hope you'll share our podcast with a friend by hitting the share button on this episode. You can also subscribe to Trujillo Media YouTube channel to see all of our previous episodes. And by subscribing, you'll never miss an episode. And when you review us on Apple or Spotify, tell us what you loved about the podcast, about our guests, about our subjects, what we were talking about, or tell us what you'd like to hear more of. All right, let's return to our guest, Noelle Green.
What maybe this is from the things that you all teach, during the initiative, or that you use. What is a term, piece of equipment, concept, etc., that you use often in your job that someone who from the outside world, if they heard it, they would have no idea what it was?
They may or may not know what this is, but we are using LED screens more and more and more instead of green screens. And it's almost becoming a part of our foundation and replacing the old school way of doing things. And what we used to
Noelle, real quick, can I just interrupt you? Can you explain what like green screen and LED for people? Because we have a lot of people who just don't know about our industry. Can you?
Absolutely.
Real quick, thank you.
So if you have a set on stage and it's a house and when you look out the window, you want to see the grass in the yard. Back in the day, we would drop a green screen or a blue screen, and in post-production, visual effects would add the elements. But now you don't need to do that so much because an LED screen will actually project an image, and it can be even a moving image. And so for driving shots, instead of being in a car and surrounded by a green screen, you can be surrounded by the desert or outer space,
Yes.
or whatever immersive environment you're ultimately going to create, so that it's happening live in real time with the director, instead of, and it's easier for the actors, I think,
I was
also to
gonna
feel
say,
more
that gives
immersed
them
in
so
it,
much. Yes.
more to
Wow.
work with.
Oh, I
And this
didn't know
isn't
that.
used on just Marvel and Lucasfilm films. Like these are, right? I mean,
Yeah.
LED now is used on procedurals now, dramas, things like that. Mm-hmm.
It is. It was Mandalorian, the Star Wars
Yes.
show, was the first one to do it, where got a ton of attention, and then a lot of people did think, oh, this is just for visual effects type shows, but no, it supports a lot of the driving work, I would say, primarily, and views out windows and such. And it's still in process, and not every show is doing it, but I do see it ultimately taking over, which is exciting. It's almost like when we went from film to digital.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a difference in budget between green screen and LED?
LED is a lot more money up front, and green screen is cheaper up front. But if you shoot right, you should save more money on the back end. But
Okay.
LED, because of the complex equipment and technicians, is ultimately more expensive, but you get a better quality look at the end.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. And Noelle, can you talk about the difference between like what used to happen? It still does. Insert car work, where you actually have actors in a car and pulling and all that stuff, as opposed to, hey, a car on stage, actors in, and you're using the LED screen. Like, it's like, what is the difference there? Time, money, if you want to go into that a little bit.
I really think it's about giving the actors a more immersive experience and saving time in post on the back end. And so you're creating what you're getting now. So with your whole shoot, you're getting everything in camera, versus before you would get a portion of the shoot and then have to figure it out at the back end. So it is a lot more efficient. And again, it's ultimately a much better quality look.
Would you be able to give an example of a recent production you worked on where they used it, that is now our listeners can watch and go, oh, that was an LED screen in the background?
I did not work on the film Blonde that Netflix produced, but there are driving shots of Marilyn Monroe in her convertible driving down period Hollywood, and you would think you were in that time, or that they created that in post. But that actress was sitting in a car on stage surrounded by LED screens projecting those period images. And I remember seeing that and standing on stage when they were prepping for that and being really impressed with just the difference in quality and time.
Amazing.
And Noelle, LED screens, a lot of it's used with VFX. What can you tell a filmmaker or someone in production that's scared of VFX and scared of that stuff? What do you tell them? They're like, I don't know anything about that. I don't want to do that. What would you tell that person?
To hire a really grounded, smart, thoughtful VFX supervisor who could come in and just be a really good partner. Because the truth is, no one has to learn it and be an expert at it. If you have a great VFX supervisor, they will lead the show and just kind of break it down in an elemental way that you'll understand what you need to know to participate. And for directors and LED screens, it means you have to have a vision up front of what's going to be on that screen, because you're committing to it. And that's the first thing your VFX supervisor is going to start talking you through, is committing to the look and selecting it.
Can you tell our listeners what the difference is between a VFX producer and a VFX supervisor?
Yes. Your VFX supervisor is the creative and the visionary that works very closely with the director. Your VFX producer is budgeting and scheduling the work that needs to get done. So they're more aligned with the line producer, and the supervisor's more aligned with the director.
Oh, see, look at that.
I
Just
love
dropping
it.
gems.
Love
Dropping
it.
gems.
And I just have to take this opportunity to say that at the California Film Commission, you can get tax credit uplifts for hiring VFX in California. I just had to
which
say
is
that.
big.
It's really important. Yeah, I mean, we because a lot
Yes.
of the VFX work now, because you can do it
Overseas.
remotely,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But I had to say it. I had to say it because all day I work on trying to get folks to come back to California and film here.
That's a
Oh my goodness.
big shift in the industry right now, so it
Yeah.
is really important to get work back in California.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yes.
It will come back.
Absolutely.
It will come
yeah.
back.
We will, yes, yes. We're gonna all, I mean, that's what I am excited about, things like the so many things that you do. We can, all right, so the studios are leaving us. Hey, maybe that leaves room, right? Actually, what if that means there are more resources and funding, et cetera, for folks who do want to stay here in California? I also know not all our listeners are in California, so we're sorry if you are elsewhere, but we encourage you to come. All right,
Yeah.
we are going to get to our signature Sister Brunch question. Sean?
Yes. So, the this whole podcast got started because of mentees and mentors in the DGA training program would like get together just to talk about community, work, just vent, joys, highs, lows, things like that. So, and every quarter used to be monthly, there were the sister brunches where a lot of sisters in the industry, not just DGA members, would get together. So, imagine you're sitting down to a sister brunch with your younger self. Now, this could be elementary age or elementary school age, high school, college, just a younger self. What are you both eating? And number two, and drinking, eating and drinking. And no shame here, by the way, no shame.
No, no.
And what do you tell your younger self? What advice or anything you tell your younger self?
We're both eating macaroni and cheese for sure.
Yes, yes.
That's what we're both drinking. She's probably having a Sprite or a 7 Up, and I'm probably having a Sauvignon Blanc or some kind of wine.
Yes.
And I wrote down what I would say because I really thought about this. And so, is it okay if I read it?
Absolutely,
Please.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yes, yes.
here we go. There will be highs and there will be lows throughout life and in this business. Find your healthy middle ground, hold your core, and love thyself. You need this foundation to rise above it all and stay confident, secure, and happy. Don't compare yourself to anyone along the way. Be you. And hold on to the good people around you and show up best for them. Always.
Noelle, why are you gonna make me cry here on this podcast? Like,
Me too.
why are you doing this?
I love it.
I just love that question so much. And I just think we're so hard on ourselves. And I just think we spend our whole career looking around and comparing ourselves and feeling bad when we're actually doing really, really, really well.
Yes.
And
The
we are
fact.
supposed to
Go ahead. Go
take
ahead.
care of each other and support each other and uplift each other. And I really do find it my honor to do this work. And I feel so lucky that I've had avenues to be able to do it.
Yes. I mean, it's so true because I just am so grateful every day just waking up because it is hard out there for so many people, and a lot of people do not wake up. So I got, people say, how's your day? I was like, it's a good day when you wake up. It's a good day.
I hope this resonates with somebody who doesn't believe in themselves or is scared to take a chance because we were all that person at one point and we just bolstered up and dove in, and that's what you have to do.
She came from Reston, y'all. She came from Reston. She wasn't
Reston,
born in
VA.
Beverly Hills. Or she came all the way from Reston. I mean, really, I think that is, and the majority of our guests were not born here, did not have connections in the industry. And that is just, I mean, really, you are a testament to that, even without the words, that just everything you've done. And now on top of that, for you to have written it out for your younger self. We're so grateful. Truly. Thank you so much for joining us.
This has been
what a
wonderful.
great what a great note to end this podcast on, too, by the way. I loved what we're going to have to, when this comes out, Fanchon, we're just going to have to, like, literally bold that, put that up.
Yes. Oh, yes, we will. Trust me. That's why we get her to sign that release form. We putting this everywhere. We sure
Oh
are.
my God.
I tell the story about coming from Reston and using track to get me to the West Coast, because use whatever opportunity you can.
Yes.
Right? You have to be creative in
find
that.
ways, and those all kind of go together. If you're running track, you've got a lot of the mentality that you need to sustain a career in the industry, right? You've got discipline, which is number one. Because it's not just waking up; it's waking up and going right to work and hustling and getting those jobs. So you transferred all those skills that you had into what you do now. It's so true.
Yeah.
So
Oh
true.
my goodness. Thank you
Thank you,
so much,
Noelle.
Noelle. You're aspirational and inspirational.
Thank you. So are both of you. This was really, really lovely.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Season 6 of the Sista Brunch podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. It really helps to support us.
We appreciate your follows on Instagram at Sista Brunch Podcast, where you can also find your community of Black women and gender expansive people. We post different industry opportunities and keep you updated on past guests. Watch, comment, share, and subscribe to our videos at youtube.com/Trujillo Media, and we're also on TikTok at Trujillo Media. Sista Brunch is brought to you by Trujillo Productions and was created by Anya Adams, Christabel and Sia Buwadi, and Fanchon Cox. Thank you for listening, following, reviewing, and subscribing, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace.